Right. So, again, today we're talking about how to prevent burnout and turnover and incorporate some self care and well being practices into this. If I can just keep it real, it's a thankless job. We get our we get our flowers. We get to see our people, evolve and do well. But sometimes in the process, some of us are broken. Some of us are burnt out. Some of us are just tired. And, you know, I am of the belief, this is the reason why I'm here. I am of the belief that you should not have to give up your well being to serve your community. So, wanted to spend just a little time on this topic so that we can help center ourselves. What it comes down to is prioritizing what's important. And historically, those who start nonprofits prioritize their clients. You prioritize your community, and that's all well and done until you drop dead. And then you have these amazing eulogies talking about how committed you were and how amazing you were. And I don't want it to be a past tense thing. I want it to be where you're active, where you're alive, where you're thriving. So today's topic, we're going to go over how to prioritize for preservation, and then how to create a culture of self-care, and then finally, how to reduce burnout and turnover. For those of you joining for the first time, my name is Amber Wynn. I am a philanthropreneur. I fuse all of the passion and dedication from philanthropy with proven business practices for long-term impact and sustainability. And when I say long-term, I mean after you and I are gone. My goal, my purpose is to make sure that our communities continue to have the resources that you're bringing to your community now. And how that happens is by reinforcing the leaders. That would be you, my amazing nonprofit leaders. So, my purpose, my reason for being here is to support you. And I know that may sound a little weird because typically in the nonprofit sector, the executive director is just out there flailing, trying to figure it out. You've got the board over there saying, "What are you doing?" And you've got your community over there saying, "What are you doing?" And you're like, "I'm doing it all, baby. I'm doing it all." And having been an executive director, I understand the pressure because the pressure is real. People have needs and you're there to meet them. But then you've got to fundraise and you've got to network and you've got to collaborate. You've got to build our program. And the list goes on. And so my purpose, my sole purpose is to help you. It's just it, is to help you. Bottom line. So let's talk a little bit about how burnout impacts the organization's mission, right? It impacts the people, your staff, you, right? It impacts the culture. If you have one or two people who are burnt out, it's going to shift the culture of your organization. You know how they say one bad apple will spoil the whole bunch? You get one person complaining, one person that's disgruntled, and then it can just, it's like a domino effect. Yeah, they don't this and they don't, I know, they don't this, they don't that. And so it just creates an impact on the culture. It impacts the delivery of your services. If you have people who are burnt out, they're not going 100%. They're going 10%, they're going 20% because they're burnt out and they don't have it to give. And then ultimately, it impacts the clients. They're not receiving the high caliber of service that you started your organization to provide. So it definitely has an impact, but it also has an impact on your bottom line as an organization. So every time you hire a person, there's a cost involved. It's not this tangible thing, but like think about the time you take away to number one, put the posts up, and then number two, review the resumes, and then number three, um, go through the hiring process. That's time you're taking away from your programs. Those are calculated as hiring costs, right? But then you also have training costs. You invest in people. You invest time and money and energy in getting them the knowledge and the skill that they need to deliver your program. That comes as a cost. When Opportunity Knox did actual research on it, and they said it costs more to replace a new person than it does for you to retrain an old person. So every time you lose a person and you replace them, it's a heavier burden than if you just took care of the people that you had. So I want you to keep that into consideration when you think about losing people. It's like, oh, well, she's gone. Yes, but you've invested time and energy, and that equates to money. Um, Burnout also impacts your organization because when a person quits, there's unemployment. If they're a W-2 employee, there's unemployment costs that come along with that, right? We all pay into unemployment if we have W-2 full-time employees. So that's a cost. And then institutional knowledge. How many times have you trained someone and you got them on board and you're ready to go and then they leave? Guess what? They take with that your institutional knowledge, how to do something, how to do it well, and maybe just that person did it, right? So you hired the specific case manager, the specific coordinator, and they're the person who has been hired to do this one thing, and they leave. And so when they take that institutional knowledge, the only person that really still has it is the executive director, which then means what? You have to do the job. So there is an impact. It's a huge impact, and there's a ripple effect. But the reality is there is a high rate of burnout in this sector, right? About 25% of nonprofit employees plan to leave their current job, and 45% are seeking new or different employment. That's almost half of the people employed in the nonprofit sector. 30% of nonprofit employees are burnt out, and 20% are in danger of being burnt out. The voluntary turnover rate for nonprofit organization is 19%. The industry average for the overall labor market is 12%. So we have a higher rate of turnover than the industry average. That says a lot. And it impacts your mission on every level. But most importantly, it's really hitting our executive directors the hardest, because as executive directors, we take on everything. If it has to be done and no one's there to do it, you step up to do it. Your board is saying, okay, we need this done, you step up to do it. So it says here that nonprofit leaders planning to leave their position in the next 15 years is 75%. That is huge. Typically, you'll see a 10 to 20% because people age out, right? Like you've got the baby boomers and then you've got Gen X. 75%, that is a huge number for our market. Nonprofit leaders report feeling used up at the end of the workday. Anybody can relate to that? I know when I was executive director of Girls Inc., I would crawl into my bed. I would be so exhausted, just wiped out. So I can relate to this, and I know that you can too. Nonprofit burnout is real. And so for decades, the nonprofit industry has been held to these unrealistic expectations and outdated metrics that keep organizations from growing. This is the one that impacts us the most, that nonprofits should be able to do more on less. This thing of, oh, you shouldn't make a profit, you should zero out, it is ridiculous. And it is one of the biggest reasons that we have burnout. Because if a person is getting paid a high salary, then the first thing they're going to say, oh, they're a fat cat. They're not really, running effectively or efficiently. All the money is going to salaries. Those salaries justify the work that's being done. What is the difference between a person who's working in the nonprofit sector doing the work as a CEO than the for-profit? In terms of output, nothing. I would say we do more than they do because we hold up our society, right? And so there's just this underlying expectation that a nonprofit is altruistic. We are human beings, right? And nonprofit does not mean no profit. And when we move away from that expectation, then we can move into providing ourselves and our staff with the support that they need. Here's a question for you. What do you think are the underlying causes of nonprofit burnout? Do you think it's underfunded organizations, overworked employees, lack of HR performance metrics, or founder's syndrome? Anybody? What do you think? Okay. I know. Yes, Anna, all of the above. These are the primary reasons for burnout in the nonprofit sector, all of them, all of them. And they all have their own contribution. So underfunded organizations. Now, most organizations, especially the small startup or the small, haven't really gotten a staff type nonprofit. They'll get $5,000 grants, between 5,000 and 50,000. Now, some money is better than no money, but we know that an organization can't survive on these little pieces of money, right? We need to fund the entire organization. That means salaries, that means programs, that means administrative costs. So when you're getting $5,000, you're piecemealing together your organization. And that's stressful. And not only that, but it impacts, other things. Those 5, 10, 15, 25, $50,000 then are restricted. Yes, we're going to give you the $50,000, but only 10% of that can go to salaries. So what happens? Your people aren't getting paid, right? So restricted funds are good for programs. They're just not good for supporting salaries. And then as a result, because you don't have the money, then you can't purchase the software and the technology that's going to help you streamline processes. Everything's manual. Well, if we had the money, we could buy a database, and then that way we can just do a query and that'll give us the information. But because we don't, we have 28 Excel sheets, and we're going to go through each one of those 28 Excel sheets to determine how many people we've served in this area for this long. And then it just creates a lot of ineffectiveness and inefficiency. A lot of our positions are grant driven, meaning I'll hire somebody if I get a grant. If I don't have a grant, then I can't hire anybody. Or if I hire somebody, the grant is good for 2 years. After those 2 years, I have to let them go. What starts to happen is people are like, I need to know that I have some consistency. I need to know that, my job is safe. Well, it's safe as long as we have a grant. As long as we don't have a grant, I can't help you. That starts to impact the culture, right? There doesn't seem to be any sense of loyalty. Even though you're trying your hardest, your employees like, I can't rock like this anymore. And so then they end up leaving you, right? Volunteer-driven programs are a beast in and of themselves. Yes, people support your mission, but at the same time, they're volunteer, right? So they can come and go when they please. And so if they're not there, then who steps in? So all of this impacts the organization. A lot of us have been reduced to hiring part-time staff. Why? Because we cannot afford the taxes that go with it, the payroll taxes, the workers' comp, the insurance. And so we keep them at part-time. The problem with the part-time staff is that they're not really getting enough hours. I know here in LA, there's no way a person can survive off of a part-time salary, right? So they're low hours, low wages, and no benefits. Who in their right mind, especially if you have kids, want to stay in that situation? No one. And so these are the factors that contribute to turnover in the nonprofit sector, and they are very real. And so as a result, the nonprofit ends up not having enough resources, stressed staff quitting, and once the staff quit, then those responsibilities are then doled onto other staff, right? So other staff who are already stressed out are now working harder because they're picking up the slack from the person who left. And then you have a lack of continuity in your programs. So the person who quit, they had established relationships in the community, and now that's not there because now this person who's taken over the duties have to come in and figure out what was going on, create new relationships. It's just a lot. It's just a lot. And so as a result, your people start to feel undervalued, underappreciated. There's mental and physical exhaustion, and it's going to impact the way that they deliver their services. Mistakes will start to happen. It's just normal, right? And then the people will start to complain. Like, you know what? We're overworked. They have me going here on the weekends. I can't do this. And then the rumors get started. You have people who are ineffective or inefficient. Why? Because they disconnect. They disconnect from the program. They disconnect from the participants. And then eventually they're going to disconnect from the organization. And that is going to impact your culture. So the other thing that happens is when we are in this situation, we tend to just go, 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 go. If there are no HR performance metrics in place, then there is not an opportunity to set goals, because in the performance process and the performance management process, that's what you do. You say, hey, Amber, let's sit at the beginning of the year and create some goals for you. We want to make sure that, number one, you are positioned to that you're positioned to get a promotion. So our goals are going to reflect that. We want you to do some, community engagement work. We want you to do some presentations. We want you to, and all of those things, if you accomplish those things, will position you for a promotion. But those things are discussed during your performance evaluation. If you are overworked, if you have a shoestring staff, you're not doing those things. You're not doing performance evaluations because you've got programs that you have to deliver, right? And if during the review, you have an opportunity, or your staff has an opportunity to check in. During the review, you start off with saying, so how are things going? They have this open space to say, they're not going well. I'm tired, I'm stressed out, I'm doing so-and-so's job and so-and-so's job. But if you don't have a performance evaluation scheduled every year, there is not that space for your staff to fully self-express themselves. And here's the thing. If you hear that someone is overworked and stressed out, you can adjust the workload, right? You can say, I hear you, I understand. Let's remove this from your plate. And then they feel seen, then they feel heard, right? You can say to them, I know that you've been working really hard and there's this project you really want to work on. Let's move this over here so that you can work on this project. Because what happens is there's a difference between when you're forced to do something versus something that you're excited about. In the performance evaluation, you can identify. You can say, hey, Amber, I appreciate you so much. You've picked up the slack, when Jennifer left. But what is it that would make you happy? What would get you excited about being here? And I would say, I really want to start my girl program where, they're doing poetry and right. Okay, let's do it, right? But these things only come out during a review. So what I'm saying is, I know that a lot of times people are like, I don't have time to do performance evaluations. I don't have time to do reviews. If you pause and you insert this practice of performance management, it's not just how you manage their performance, it's how you give them space to communicate to you. And a lot of times they will also come up with solutions. You're doing the day-to-day, you're grinding, you're pushing through, but you're also thinking the way that you think. They say, more people, more diversity, more ideas. I know for me, especially with these young kids, they come up with things, they can do things in like 10 seconds, which would have taken me 2 hours. So if I'm not in communication with my staff, I can't learn a new way to do something more effective or more efficient. People have ideas, especially the ones that are out in the front lines doing the work. They're like, hey, I heard about this software and it will allow us to do these 6 things that we're doing manually. We can automate them. But you can only get that during your staff meetings or during your one-on-ones. So I'm saying to create an opportunity so that you can hear from your staff and maybe get some suggestions on how to improve things. And a lot of these things don't have to cost. There are so many apps and things that I learn about on Instagram and whatnot that help you to be efficient. I am not a technology person. I suck at technology, y'all. But there's so much technology out there that helps me that I can't turn a blind eye to it. So I have to have people in my space that's going to help me get to where I need to be. Also, it's in these performance evaluations that you talk about a merit increase. You're like, I haven't had a salary increase in 3 years. They probably won't be able to get them for another 3. But this is what happens when they have that conversation. You can say, I understand that and I appreciate you. And as soon as we're able to get some money in, then we are going to give you, as opposed to just ignoring it. Then that causes people to grumble. right? It causes people to say, oh, they don't really care about us. They're not even talking to us about the merit increase. If you said to them, we have a shortfall in our salaries, and so that's why we haven't been able to give you a merit increase, at least you're acknowledging their concerns. Some people are just like, well, what are we talking about? We don't have it. That doesn't address the issue. What it does is create this culture where people are behind your back just grumbling and mumbling. So I'm saying one of the ways to help prevent a person getting to a place where they want to quit is to give them this space where they can have the conversation. It's to give them a space where they can say, this is how I feel. And in these next couple of slides, you'll be able to say, I heard you, and here's what I'm doing in response. But before we get to that, there's this real thing called the founder syndrome. And it's when a person starts the organization and they hold it so tight because they started it, it's their baby. And what ends up happening is they start to be controlling. I started this. I don't need you to come in here with your own, ideas trying to take us off of our path. That's not what this organization is about. If someone gives feedback, then you're like, well, maybe this is not the place for you. It's my way or you can get gone, right? And then in that space, it's like, wow, okay, here I am out here doing this work. I see how I can do something better, but you're just going to shut me down. Founder syndrome is one of the biggest ways that culture is impacted in a negative way, right? Because now the people who are doing the work, they have this sense of, this is her baby, this is his baby, I can't say anything, my input doesn't matter. And then what happens is they feel underheard or underappreciated. And then also, if a founder has recruited board members who are not going to fire them, there's a high likelihood that those people won't fire them because they're friends and family and they support them. But there's also a high likelihood if they are friends and family, they don't have the resources to then support the executive director. And that's the primary role of the board. The primary role of the board is to support the executive director by fundraising. So if a person is experiencing founder syndrome, they're afraid that, because by law, the board can hire and fire. That's their responsibility, to hire and fire the executive director. But if you're uncertain about your skills, then you'd be like, well, I'm just going to make sure I never get fired. I'm going to put people on the board who's going to always keep me there. That's a possibility. But on the flip side, you won't get the support that you need. So what can nonprofits do to address the alarming burnout rate? I'm so glad you asked. So the first thing is to get your organization, your staff, your workforce to a place where they feel satisfied with their job. What does that mean? It means that they're comfortable with the goals, they're comfortable with the workload, they're comfortable with the culture. Once they're satisfied with their job, then you'll have greater engagement. Listen, if a person is pissed off, what they're not going to do is jump up and do extra work. They're going to do the very bare minimum. And while they're doing the bare minimum, they're going to be saying, you see, now she's asking us for this, and now she's asking us for that, but she don't want to pay us. You know what I mean? So we got to get them to the place where they're satisfied with their job, and then there's greater employee engagement. From that, you'll get increased productivity, and then the ultimate goal is the decrease in the chance of the employee leaving the organization. All of these things, again, domino effect. That's where we want to go. So the first thing, the most obvious thing, is to increase funding, right? Now, as a nonprofit consultant, I have people coming to me all the time saying, I need more money, I need more money. I'm not going to lie. That's just not who I am. The world needs too many nonprofits for me to having people spin their wheels. There are no quick fixes to increasing the funding, but there is a sure pathway to increasing the funding. And trust me, I have seen people who come in with $80,000 budgets within 1 year, they're at $1 million. That's the delivery from what I'm about to tell you. In order for you to increase your funding, the solution is to build out your infrastructure. What does that mean? That means that your programs have to be programs, not events, not initiatives, because funders don't want to fund those. They want to fund programs. So your program descriptions have to be crystallized such that a funder is excited about funding. That means that you have measurable goals and objectives, because a funder needs to know what their return on their investment is going to be. I have people who are like, oh yeah, we have programs. I was like, okay, what's your impact? Cannot tell me that when people graduate from our program, they go on to do X, Y, and Z. Or how about this? We've had so many graduations in the last 5 years. A funder needs to know what it is that you're going to accomplish. And the biggest challenge for most nonprofits is quantifying their impact. And that comes back down to measurable goals and objectives. I am telling you, once I get my people so where their goals are measurable, you see an increase in funding, because a funder now understands what they're going to get for their money. That all comes down to an accurate budget. And when I say an accurate budget, I mean, how much does it really cost to run your nonprofit? People give me budgets, I don't know what they are. They're projections, they're based off of what they fundraise. Let me tell you, once you create an accurate budget, this is what I mean by an accurate budget. You include everything it costs to run your organization at an optimal level. Right now, your budget probably reflects what you have in the bank or what grants are due to come in. That is not an accurate budget. And the reason why you need an accurate budget is because of this last bullet. A seasoned board member needs to understand how much does it really cost to run this organization at an optimal level, because that's what they're going to set their fundraising goals at. The number one reason why nonprofits are not hitting the fundraising goal is because their fundraising goal is too low. And so what happens is, if you have in the budget $80,000 right now, because that's what you brought in, and your fundraising goal is $80,000, you're going to always stay at $80,000. If you put together an accurate budget and you say, at an optimal level, I would be getting paid $80,000. At an optimal level, I would have a program manager, 2 program coordinators. If you put together this budget at an optimal level, if we had a venue, or if we had money in the budget to pay for a venue, just put down all of the, people call my budgets their dream budget. Okay, that's fine. But it is an accurate budget, and it lists everything, even the things that are being donated. If Amber Wynn donates to you every year and she prints your booklet for your gala, what happens when she doesn't? If it is included in the budget, then you can still print your magazine or your journal. If she's still donating, guess where it goes? It goes to reserves. And that's how you build up the reserves, right? So if you go do Costco runs and you pick up tissue for the organization, that is not being included in your budget. And if you don't have the money to pick up the tissue, then it's not going to go into your budget. And then you're going to stay in this place of poverty. That's why an accurate budget is the key to you increasing your revenue, but more importantly, sustaining your organization. I can't tell you this, I can't emphasize this like more. Create a budget at your optimal level. All of the things, in-kind, donations, whatever. Because once you get your season budget, you say to your, once you get your accurate budget, you say to your seasoned board members, this is what we need to fundraise for. Now, I've had all of my nonprofits come in with small budgets, and they typically leave with like their budgets being 3 times the amount that they thought their budget was. And it's just like astounding. But they then take that budget to their board, and then the board says, first of all, we cannot raise all of that, right? So you go from 80,000 to $1 million. What you do is you create a timeline. No, we can't raise it all, but I need you to realize all that we need. So maybe year 1, we'll only raise 25% of the million. Year 2, we'll raise 50% of the million, and so forth and so on. But you need to understand what it is that we're fundraising for. And a lot of times, once we put the things on the accurate budget, the budget line items, let's just say, for example, you say, well, we need a van, but it's not a priority. We'll get that in 3 years. Your board member, if they're seasoned, may come across an opportunity. Hey, guess what? Galpin Ford there's a person who sits on my board, another board, and they work for Galpin Ford. And I knew that we needed a van, so I asked them if they'd be able to donate it, and they say yes. These are how the things happen. But if your board has no idea of the things that you need, they don't know what to ask for. So an accurate budget serves so many purposes. Without an accurate budget, you will not be able to increase your funding. That's it. So how do you increase your funding? It's through these things. A refined program description with measurable goals and objectives. An accurate budget is key. And then seasoned board members who's going to take that accurate budget and create an accurate fundraising strategy for you. Any questions on that? Because this is huge. This is the transition for increased funding. It's not I don't know. I have people out there, consultants out there saying, oh, this is how you fundraise. It's not about that. It's about the infrastructure, because a funder needs to feel comfortable with who they're writing their check with. And it comes down to what your organization looks like, right? It's not really, I'd like to say it's about the work that you're doing. But if I'm writing you a check for $250,000, and that's where, those are the sizes that we need you to be at, $5,000, $10,000. No, we need you to be at 150, 250. And when you get to that point, because like it's easy to get 5,000 here, 10,000 here, because they can just write that off. When they get to the 250,000 mark, they need to see, okay, do you have a profit and loss statement? Do you have audited statements? Do you have all of these things that make them feel comfortable with writing you a check? So it really comes down to this slide right here in terms of increasing your funding. When I do the budget, I'm going to go into depth so that you can understand how to create an accurate budget and what that looks like. I'll give you the template and all of that. We have a session on creating the budget because it's so important. So at the end of the day, every nonprofit should have 10 funding streams. Did you guys know that? 10 funding streams, because if you lose 1, 2, or 3 funding streams, you still have 6, 7, other ones that will keep you afloat. If we didn't learn anything during the pandemic, we learned that. Most of my nonprofit organizations generated revenue in person. They had a gala, they had a golf tournament, they had a walk. All of that shut down during the pandemic. And they were like, Amber, help. And I'm like, yep, 10 streams. And here's the other thing. If your organization is surviving off of grants alone, you are doing your organization a disservice. Grants should only be about 35% of your budget, and that's high. The majority of revenue that comes into nonprofits come from individual donors, because there's a closer connection with the person to your mission, and you can get reoccurring from that person. If you had 100 supporters and they all gave, $20 a month consistently every month, in a lot of instances, that's better than just getting a grant once, right? You want that reoccurring. You want to be able to bank on that $200 or that $5,000 because it's coming in regularly. So every nonprofit should have 10 funding streams. Let's look at this. Yes, grants definitely have to be a part of it. Fee for service. People say, oh, my people can't afford it. Okay, then do a sliding scale. Based off of your income, you may not pay the whole $100. Maybe you'll pay $20. You get $20 from 50 people, that then can pay a utility bill. So we don't want to just completely wipe out fee for service. You want to do it at a scale, right? Individual major donors, people who are writing checks to support your mission. Naming opportunities. You can name anything. You can name a door. You can name a conference room. You can name a bench. Listen, when I was working for the Sheriff's Youth Foundation, we had the kids create a tree out of construction paper. They just rolled up some brown paper, then they cut out the leaves or whatever. They identified a wall, right? They created this tree, and we had donors. They would put their name on the leaf so you can do a naming opportunity for anything. Contracts, events, galas. require a lot of work and investment, but it can be a part of your funding strategy. In-kind donations are important because when people donate something, then that's money you don't have to pay from your budget, right? So in-kind donations. Can you donate accounting services? Can you donate board development services, right? Can you help me get my board straight? And you can get a tax write-off because I am a 501c3 tax-exempt organization. How can you get the things that you need without coming out of pocket from your budget? Branded products. People sell merch all the time. You can bundle it up. You can have a little cushion seat. You can have a hoodie or whatever. And maybe that money that's coming in just for that is designated to pay the security person. Or maybe that money that's coming in can go for the end of year Christmas party. If you have a diverse stream of revenue, you can designate that stream for something specific. Board dues. Your board is supposed to be the governing entity of your organization. If you are in phase one with your board, meaning they're friends and family, they're not really contributing financial, that's fine. A board usually goes through 3 phases. If you're at one and they're friends and family, then perhaps your focus could be on rotating in more seasoned board members who understand what they're supposed to be doing, and then they would then pay the board dues. And then finally, corporate sponsorships. Anything marketing. A corporate sponsorship is not really about the program. It's really about the funder accessing their potential target. So when people have their logos around, they just want potential audiences to see that they support something outside of profit. So it's about what they look at. I love marketing money because basically you give them the 501c3 tax exempt letter and you're done. Maybe you send some pictures, but grants, there are deliverables. So I always encourage things like employee giving, right? You register your organization and people from that company give $20 every month. I had one client, she got $60,000 from Microsoft because Microsoft matches. So that is passive income. She registered. People say, oh, this is an exciting, it's called EST, Educating Students Together. And she would take kids from the foster care system to historically Black colleges and universities. So that's a sexy program. People are like, I like that. $60,000 from Microsoft just for matching. So the point of this slide is burnout, high turnover comes from underfunded organizations. One of the things that I want you to understand is that every nonprofit should have 10 funding streams. You have 10 funding streams, then you have more ways of revenue coming in so that your organization is better and better funded. If you're just trying to do it with grants, or if you're just trying to do it with grants in a gala or a signature program, you're going to always be underfunded and you're going to struggle. So just think about this, right? And then when we talk about practices, how do you get to a culture of well-being? How do you get to a culture of self-care? It has to be intentional. And I'm talking and I'm being convicted as I say it myself, because I will jump up out of my bed and I will start working and I'm like, I've got this due, I've got this due. And guess what was supposed to happen first thing in the morning? Amber was supposed to get out of the bed, go to the gym and work out. It didn't happen because I jumped up and I just started working because I got this deadline, this deadline, this deadline. It is who we are oriented in being. The only way that you get to the self-care practices as a culture is if it is created. It has to be intentional. So I have up here a copy of an Outlook calendar. And when I have circled coffee walk. So in your calendar, you have to put it in and you have to fight for it. What typically happens is you put in there, oh, I'm going to do, a walk during my coffee time or whatever. Someone says, hey, Amber, can you meet me at 10 a.m.? And I'll be like, yeah, it's just my coffee walk. No. You have to fight for it. You have to fight for it and keep it on your calendar no matter what. When you think of your self-care practices, you think of them as essentials to long-term sustainability. And if you look at it like that, in order for my organization to be sustainable, I have to take care of me. And so you fight for that. And this is how you do it. You make you make your self-care private, because the minute someone sees coffee walk, they'll be like, oh, she can. But if you make it private so no one knows what it is, your response when they say, can you move that, whatever you have from 10 to, you say, no, I've got a prior commitment, but I can do it, tomorrow at X, Y, and Z. When people can see your calendar, they make assumptions about what is important, right? If your board has access to your calendar or your program manager has access to your calendar, they can make the decision that your walk during coffee time is not important. But if you block it and you say, nope, I'm not available, then you honor your self-care time. And for me, when I was in corporate America, I would do this 3 times a day. So in the morning, I would come in, go through my emails or whatever. In the middle of the day, I would block this time all the way across, make it private, and I would take that time for myself, even if it was just a 5-minute walk around the building just to clear my head. That is a self-care practice, because you are disengaging from the stress of thinking about how to figure out everything. And even if you just walk around the building, once, it alleviates that stress. And what typically happens is you get better ideas, but you've got to fight for it. It is a practice, and it is intentional. So this is how it starts. The first thing you do is you calendar it, and you fight for it as if it was a funder that you were, keeping that meeting for. But again, it is intentional. What can you do as a small nonprofit with a small budget to increase your job satisfaction with your people? First thing, small things. By law, your staff is entitled to breaks and lunch. When I was in corporate, I had my supervisor say to me when she was introducing me to, the team, hey, this is Amber. She's new. She's a supervisor. So she takes me to my desk. She's like, yeah, typically we work through our lunch. And I looked at her and I said, I don't work through my lunch. I leave my space. And she looked at me. I said, yeah, I just find when I leave my space, I get new ideas, So create a culture. Like if you're walking past your people and they're eating lunch at the desk, you'll say, I want you to leave. I want you to leave the space, stop working, just break away from it for a minute. And when they break away from a minute, they get to see the sun, they get to see flowers. If you're just 8 hours at the desk in front of the computer, it's going to make you like this. It's going to make you grumpy. So when we talk about intentional culture building, you as the executive director create that. Don't say, oh, just sit at your desk. And, this is a working lunch. No. If it's a working lunch, this is what you say. I'm going to bring you pizza. I'm going to bring you drinks or whatever. And guess what? We're going to talk about things that excite us. That's how you're going to create this culture. Taking walks are wonderful. They clear the mind. They get some exercise. They keep you going. Mental health days. When I was executive director at Girls Inc., I gave my staff 1 mental health day a year, meaning if you just couldn't do it, you called in and you say, I'm taking my mental health day. They got paid for it, but they knew they had that one day that, like, if there was an emergency or they just, some days you just don't feel it. You know what I mean? And so I gave them mental health. Amber, I'm taking my mental health day. All right, take it. I'll see you. Vacations, ensuring that people take their vacations, because when a person separates and they go recuperate, they come back lively. But if you're like, well, I can't take a vacation because, we're short staffed. Yes, we are short staffed, but I need you to take your vacation, because what's happening is you're becoming irritable. You're becoming resentful. So go take your vacation, come back full of energy and excited to be here. It is worth that sacrifice. And people say to me all the time, no, I can't do it. You can and you must, because the end justifies, the means justifies, the end justifies the mean, whatever the saying is. You want them to take the vacation because if they don't, in the end, they're going to quit. If they take a vacation, if they release, relax, then they come back rejuvenated. But if they're just working, they're going to get tired and they're going to burn out. We learned during the pandemic that, different work schedules work better for people. We are seeing the quiet resignation right now where people are not interested in coming back to the workforce. As an executive director in a nonprofit, that's challenging, especially if you do direct services. But guess what? Maybe you can create a staggered work schedule, right? Amber, you're going to work from Tuesday through Saturday, right? Janine is going to work from Monday to Thursday so that your staff has one day where they can take care of their personal things, right? But there's always coverage in the office. So you stagger it. So people say, well, we're a nonprofit. We got to have everybody in the office. No, you don't. You need to have your essential people, your front desk people. Yes. And even with that, maybe you can stagger. But what you want to do is make your staff, especially if you're not paying them the salary that they could, be paid, you want to give them other perks that makes them feel valued. So a staggered work schedule might be that. The other thing, maybe you can't give your people salary increases, but you can give them a Starbucks gift card, right? So during a staff meeting, and here's the thing, with your 501c3, just hit up everything. Bed, Bath, Body Beyond. Hey, we're 501c3. Can you donate some gift cards? Hey, Ralph's, we're 501c3. Can you donate? I've done this. I've had one of my interns. I gave them a copy of my 501c3 and just had them for 1 week, just hit up all of the stores in the area and get gift cards donated. They write them off. So you say, okay, today we're going to, at our staff meeting, I want to honor this employee. The employee comes up and you tell them about all the hard work that they're doing and how you recognize them. You know it's hard and you really appreciate them, and you give them a gift card. And you give it in front of everybody so everybody sees that this person is being recognized and honored. Or, like a massage. When I was in corporate America, they brought a masseuse to do 10-minute massages. Now, the massage, the cost of the masseuse for the day was probably about $500 because they were just doing, but that $500 is cheaper than giving everybody a 50-cent raise, because that 50-cent raise is being hit every payroll, right? So it's cheaper to bring in the masseuse, have them do the 10-minute massages. Your people feel like, oh, okay, we are practicing self-care. They got that knot out. That was cool. You know what I mean? So think about it in terms of bottom line. It is cheaper to bring in a masseuse for half a day, to bring in a yoga instructor for half a day, than it is to increase the salary for your people. Now, here's what may happen. They may say, they paying for this yoga person. I prefer for them to put it on my salary. And you say to them, I would prefer it too. So until we get to that point where I can, here's what I can do. I'm going to try and bring in people that's going to help you process this stress, relieve this stress until I can get to the point. And I was honest. It's cheaper for me to bring in a person to come in and massage your knots than it is for me to sustain an increase in salary. Your 50%, your 50 cents times 7 staff times every 2 weeks, I can't afford it. That's my truth. So until I get there, here's what I'm going to do. If you don't say it, they will make it up. Oh, so they can afford a masseuse, but they can't. No, that's exactly it. So you're very clear, very direct. And if they are decent people, they'll understand you are at least trying, right? My people were decent. They were like, well, Amber, instead of doing, the massage, can we have a yoga person come in? Absolutely. Yoga all day long, right? It was only once a month, and it wasn't like all day. It was for like an hour and a half, but they appreciated it. So building a culture. Another thing that tends to happen is we go. Pause and do the little simple things like employee of the month. Acknowledge your people. You are working hard and I appreciate you. Some people, that's all they need. You're working hard. So you're like, I don't have time for that. Just do your job. Yes. And you need your people to increase your capacity. So an acknowledgement at a staff meeting, if you have parking, you can do something like employee parking of the month, the parking that is closest to the door. Maybe it's your parking. Give it up, rotate it. We're going to have employee of the month gets to park the closest or gets a designating parking spot. It's small, but it doesn't cost you, right? They feel special. Acknowledge your people in your newsletter, in your social media. Today, I'd like to thank Amber Wynn because she went out of her way to da-da-da-da-da. Boom. People just need to be acknowledged. These are the things that you can do without spending money, right? If your people are working on the weekend, give them comp time. What does that mean? Amber Wynn is working on a Saturday. You're going to say to her, great, you worked on Saturday. Don't come in one day next week, right? You've comped them. If they're working all the week and then the weekend, they're going to get burnt out. So you say to them, Amber, I don't want you to come in on Tuesday. You worked on Saturday, don't come in on Tuesday. And you give them a period of time, right? It can get complicated if 6 months down, oh, I didn't work, I worked on that Saturday, I want to take that time. No, you have to take it within the pay period. But you give them the opportunity to take some time down. You don't want them working weekdays and weekends. So just give them comp time. Telecommute. Now, this one, maybe you can say you can telecommute one day from home if you're a direct services organization. Everybody in the nonprofit sector, I mean, even though we did it during the pandemic, they're like, I need to see my people. I need them to be in. So maybe it's not a complete telecommute. You allow them one day during the month or one day during the week to telecommute. What that does is that gives them the opportunity to work from home. If they have childcare issues, if they need to, get on the phone, schedule appointments, do some laundry in between meetings, like that alleviates a lot of stress, especially if your people work on the weekends. So you're going to say, hey, everybody, we need to have coverage in the organization. So let's put together a calendar. Amber, you've got Mondays off. Susie, you've got Tuesdays off. And it's not off, but that you're telecommuting from home so that you always have coverage in the office, but people are feeling appreciated and they can get some of their personal things done. We talked about this before, a non-financial benefit of doing performance evaluations. It is allowing your staff to be heard. It's allowing them to work in partnership with you to create the workspace that they want. If you're meeting with Amber and Amber says, I'm really stressed out, tell me about it. What would help you? Well, what would help me is if Susie also learned what I'm doing, because when I'm not here, she can do it. Now I feel like I can't leave because no one else can do it. Great idea. So we're going to cross train. So it's doing these performance evaluations that you get to hear solutions. You get to hear what people really want to do. And maybe you can just switch. Susie doesn't like doing the PowerPoint presentations. It got dumped on her, but Amber would love to do some PowerPoint presentations. How would you know unless you have the conversation? So it's doing these performance evaluations. You get feedback from your staff and you can make adjustments. A slight adjustment like, I don't like talking in front of people, but you got me doing it because when Susie left, you're like, Amber, just do it. But guess what? I was talking to John and he really likes it. Can we just switch? Boom. Sometimes it's the simplest things. Also, if you are unable to provide your people with the salaries, you can do a title change. You got to be careful about the classification, but if you have 3 tiers in your classification, so let's just say Amber Wynn is a supervisor. You can say, Amber, I know I haven't been able to pay you your value and your worth, but I would love to promote you from supervisor to senior supervisor so that in the future, when you start to look for other jobs, you'll get a higher pay. So when you leave me, I hope that we have advanced you up to, so you've got supervisor, senior supervisor, and then we're going to advance you to a director so that when you leave, you'll have that title and you'll be able to garner more money. When I talk to my people, I let them know, listen, I am grooming you for leadership. I love you. I don't want you to stay because I know that you're going to be a leader. But let me help you develop those skills. Let me get you to that title so that when you are ready to go, you can garner the highest salary possible. That's not going to be a supervisor, a senior supervisor, maybe. So let's give you the skills you need to get that title. A title change is huge, and it doesn't really impact you financially unless you make a big jump. You don't want to go from coordinator to director. You want to go from coordinator to senior coordinator, from senior coordinator to specialist, from specialist to senior specialist. And it also helps to build loyalty. You're like, ooh, I'm advancing in this organization. They're giving me new skills and new titles that you can control. And then professional development. So when you're having your performance evaluations and you're talking to your staff, you say to them, so what is it that you would like to learn? We want to get you into this new title. What skills do you think you're lacking? They may say, well, I really haven't had any management skills. I haven't managed anybody. Great. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to research how we can get some summer interns and then you can manage them. I want you to create da-da-da-da-da-da so they get the skills, right? And they're like, okay, bet. This company is investing in me. They're giving me the skills I need to advance in the nonprofit sector. Here's the really, really important thing. It should be a conversation. It shouldn't be you telling them, hey, I'm going to make you this, this position, and I'm going to give you these new tasks, because then it feels like it's being put on. Have the conversation. I've had people say to me, I really would like to be an executive director. Bet. So to be an executive director, you've got to have accounting experience. You've got to have marketing experience. And so what I would do is like, okay, we're going to do a project a month to give you experience to see if you really like it. Let's look at the budget. So we go through the budget. This is how I do the budget. This is what I give the accountant. Let's look at the board packet. This is how I put together the board packet. And just every month there was one tiny assignment. Guess what happened? At the end, they're like, I don't want to be an executive director. You do too much. But they had the opportunity to experience it without experiencing it, right? It was just once a month. It was a task. They got to see the inside, how I do it, what I do. And they were like, yeah, I'm good. I don't want to do that. So, professional development is amazing when you cross-train people, especially if you're losing people, right? This is what you say. You know what? We want to make sure that the burden is not on one person. And so we're going to cross-train each other. Amber, you're going to learn how to answer the phones. Cecilia, you're going to learn how to, do the FedEx. So we're cross-trained. And I'm not dependent. The organization is not dependent on just one person. We can move, we can pivot, right? So now, Amber, you're scheduled to be off on Tuesday. You can still be off on Tuesday because Cecilia is still here. So when we talk about non-financial ways of keeping your people excited and engaged, it takes a little bit of out of the box thinking, but you can do it. You can do it, and you can create a better workforce. Okay. Any questions so far? I know I'm just blah, 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 but any questions? All right. Financial compensation. Here's the truth. Here's the reality. People want to get paid. People determine their value by how much they're being compensated. If you can do nothing more than give them a cost of living increase between 1% and 3%, that's going to demonstrate that you understand that the world outside is expensive, right? The way you do that is when you write your grants, especially the multi-year ones, include the cost of living increase in that grant budget. People will have 500,000, 500,000, 500,000. In your grant, the first year you put 500,000. The second year you put 540,000. And the third year you put 580,000. And that includes the cost of living increase. You can do that in your budget. You can do that in your budget. A merit increase. Merit is based off of the work that you do. It's a cost of living tends to be automatic because of inflation, but a merit increase. Amber, we lost 3 people. You held it down. You Felicia's job, you did your job, and you did Margaret's job. I am going to give you a merit increase. It's based off of what you gave to the company. Because here's the reality. If Margaret quit and Alicia quit, you have some savings. So take some of that savings and add it on to Amber and to acknowledge that she's done this extra work. Spot bonuses. I love spot bonuses for the same reason as I love those gift cards. If you do the merit increase, that 50% is going to stay with your payroll every paycheck. So you got to come up with that extra money. But if you do spot bonuses, like let's just say Amber was grinding in these 3 positions, for a month until you were able to hire somebody, give her a $500 bonus check because she held it down. It's $500, right? And it's not something that's reoccurring. It's just that one time. So I love spot bonuses. I love holiday bonuses. This one is huge. I found this one to be very, very huge. At the end of the year, you give all of your employees $500, $250, heck, $100. It's Christmas time. So whatever you give them, they're going to be excited about. And it just, I don't know, it just creates goodwill, cheer, and it's a one-time thing. Yes, it may be $2,000 or $5,000, but it's a one-time $5,000 as opposed to increasing the salary of everybody. So they get this unexpected holiday bonus. Oh, I can get my kids, some whatever. Holiday bonuses are very, very good for creating positivity in the energy. The other thing is if you can close down a week in a month. Some people do it in the summer when it's slow. Some people do it during that Christmas holiday. Close down and pay your people, right? But they get that week off just to decompress. Outside of the holiday bonuses, that one is huge. We close down for 1 week during the Christmas holiday. It's paid. My people are excited. They're excited because they're still going to get the check and they get to relax. So when they come back in January, they're ramped up and ready to go. If that's something that you can do, I'm going to suggest that you do that. That one, the holiday bonus, that one, they score high on culture building and making your staff happy. So financial compensations, a gift basket, those you can get donated, right? You can say, hey, Bath Betty, Body Beyond, can you donate us 3 of those baskets? Here's my 501c3, you can write it off, right? People who are in the corporate gift business, right? They create corporate gifts. Can you donate a basket? They get to write it off, but they also get to publicize their basket, right? Wine companies are really famous for that. You get them to donate a couple of bottles of wine, you go buy some cheese and, things of that nature, create a basket. During your staff meeting, you can present the basket. During the holiday, you can present the basket, whatever. Give them all baskets. My girlfriend, she was really good at going to like 99-cent stores, but like in high-end areas and getting some, just a whole, like she would get 10 of everything and create little baskets and give them to them in the holidays. So just so they feel appreciated, So when we talk about creating culture, that is important. But here's where I want you to focus. Hold on, my neighbor's gotten up and is taking a shower and is excited, singing. Okay, and I don't have to compete with him. He's so excited. My purpose is to increase your capacity. And when I say increase your capacity, I'm not saying removing things so that you can do more things. Increase the capacity means removing things so that you can breathe, right? How do you do that? It's through delegating, first of all. But if any of you are like me, when I was executive director, I thought that no one could do anything better than I could. Control freak, I can't lie. I wanted my community to have the best. And to me, the best was the way that I did it. It created burnout because I couldn't be all things. So I had to learn how not to sacrifice great for good. Meaning, if I did it my way, it probably would be great. But good is better than nothing at all. If I am burnt out, laid out on the floor because I'm trying to do everything great, then my community suffers. My community can get good because guess what? They're getting nothing at all. So if I have a subordinate who can do the job and do it well, then I need to release it instead of me holding on to it so I can do it great. Does that make sense? Delegation is important, not only for increasing your capacity, but for increasing leadership in the organization. It's important to grow your leaders, right? Secondly, when you have other people doing things, they do it differently. So you learn new ideas, improve practices. I'm telling you, with these new generation, they're like, Amber, why do you have a notepad? I'm like, because I'm taking notes. They're like, open up your phone and take a picture. I was like, duh. And so that saved. Then I just send it to my email, print it out, as opposed to me sitting there and writing. New people, new ideas, new improved practices to streamline things you just would never thought of before, right? Once you get into a situation, listen, this is what I tell my small businesses. Before you hire, look at purchasing software, because software can save you 2 or 3 positions. For example, a CRM. Now, they're a little bit challenging to identify, but if you had a CRM, it would save you at least, at minimum, at maximum 4, but at minimum 2 positions. With the CRM, you get the information in, you can do a report, you can query, you can do all those types of things. So I typically try and get my small organizations to invest in software so they can streamline processes. If you have to wait for another person to put together a report for you, right? Versus if the information is in a database and you just do click, 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 and you have a report, you saved the organization money from the position that you didn't have to hire. And you've also increased your capacity because you have the information right at your tips. People don't think about investing in software typically until after they have full staff. I'm saying look at purchasing software as a way to streamline processes to increase your capacity. What else? Oh, task-based project. So one way to become more efficient to increase your capacity is to create task-based projects. For example, if you have volunteers, if you have interns, if you want to delegate, don't try and do the whole position. Just say, here are 3 tasks I need done. And in these tasks, it's going to be bulleted, just like on the screen. So let's just say the task I need to do is to identify potential board members. That's going to go where increased capacity is. Bullet number 1, do the research, go to these 3 associations, find out what their practice is, submit this letter or write the letter, like have just task-based projects to do. Task-based projects get done quicker than if you had like goals, right? The goal is to increase the number of people participating in this program. That's so vague, right? If you have a task, identify all of the potential partners in a 5-mile radius. That's the task. You get more done when it's a task-based project. If you have 10 task-based projects, you can give some to your staff, you can give some to your volunteers, you can give some to your board. But a task-based project is easier to accomplish and it helps to increase your capacity. For my brand new small nonprofits, I even encourage them to do virtual assistants. Instead of hiring an admin, you put in there 10, tasks, boom, boom, boom. You don't have to worry about paying for benefits. You don't have to worry about whether or not they're W-2, 1099, none of that. You get these 10 tasks, you hire this virtual assistant for 10 hours a month, that increases your capacity. Because it's not just about your staff. Yes, it is, because you are responsible for your staff and your volunteers. It's about you. How can you help you, right? How can you put some things in place that's going to increase your capacity? That's what I'm really concerned about. So having task-based projects, looking into a virtual assistant, that is going to help you. This next one I'm going to share with you has been a huge success here in California. So workforce investment boards, there is federal funding for each government for a workforce investment board. When an individual is unemployed, when they're laid off or they quit, or they typically, what in California, they report to the unemployment department, and in there they make them register for the jobs and submit the paperwork every month for the jobs that they have applied for. Well, the federal government provides money to these workforce investment boards to get people back to work. I'm going to show you how to access that in a minute. The other thing you can do are collaborations. I was huge with this. At Girls Inc., instead of me starting a whole nother program, or instead of me hiring a person, I would go to a similar CBO, which was the Boys and Girls Club. I'm like, can we collaborate? I need this work done. I don't want to hire anybody. You do it already. So do it for my staff or do it for my clients. And then in exchange, I will do X, Y, and Z for yours. I would train them on how to work with girls. I would train them on our curriculum. They would come in and they would do like after school programming. So collaborations are really big in alleviating some of the stress. Instead of trying to have your staff do everything, partner with another organization and say, can I send my kids over there to you? I don't have to then have one of my staff figure out what to do. I'm going to send them over to you. You send yours over to me for X, Y, and Z. Right? And then work for college credit, especially for the nonprofit sector. It's really easy to go into a professor and say, hey, I've got this project. I need a case for support built. Can your students take it on as a project? Because they want them to have real world experience. If you have an after school program, you can go to the College of Education or whoever does the early learning and say, hey, can this person work for credit? So now you have a body from a person who's trained to do it, like that's what they're going to school for. So they're qualified, they're getting credit, they're doing the work. That's one less person that has to do this position. That's one less person on your staff that has to do. So you show them, listen, I'm trying to bring in people to help, right? Work for college credit is one way to do that. And then I'm going to show you this flyer. If you guys haven't heard of it, it's the Durfee Foundation. Durfee Foundation understands how hard you work, and they offer sabbaticals. They offer $55,000 a year for an executive director to take off so that they can recalibrate. Now, you have to have a second person in charge, obviously. So if you are the executive director and you have a program director, that person would run the organization technically for a year. So that gives them leadership skills. But you are going to take a month off just to recalibrate, to refresh. I'm going to give you that information right now. What resources can help you increase your capacity? So at universities, they have this department that's called extended education. Extended education provides you with things like access to resources and trainings and things of that nature. At the community college level, they have business services department, and they do the same thing. You can also go to, on each of those campuses where they do job placements and things of that nature, you can get interns. AmeriCorps, the nation, our government pays people to do volunteerism, AmeriCorps. You have a project, you have to do what I talked about, have a project-based assignment, and then these AmeriCorps people will come in and do them. Another one that people sleep on is senior volunteers. There's a senior volunteer corps, and the government pays them. They have the experience. They're just older people who are still bright, who are still brilliant. Maybe they retired and they're like, I'm bored, or they want to just contribute. The senior corps, you can bring them in. They can either be a mentor or they can fill a gap. And then Taproot, they do projects that are funded by corporations. So here's what I wanted to show you. In California, this is our workforce investment board. These are the things that they provide to businesses. And as a nonprofit, You are a business. You're just a business with an altruistic purpose. But you do qualify. You qualify. Look at this last column over here. Subsidized labor programs. They're called transitional subsidized employment programs. They will pay for 3 people. They will pay their wages for 10 months. So you can say, hey, I need up to 3 people, 1, 2, or 3, and they will pay their salaries for 10 months. Now, what they want is for you to hire them. This is an incentive to get businesses to hire people, but you don't have to. But here's the beautiful thing. If you get somebody and they set up the whole interview process and all that, if you get somebody for 10 months, you've trained them, right? But you've also get to see, oh, this person is showing up late, but it's not on your dime, right? But you may get some amazing people, 3 people, their salaries have been paid for 10 months. I would even go so far as to say, create tasks that need to get done that you can't do because you don't have the time, that you have people for 10 months to do it. Knock it out. That's going to move your organization forward. Don't try and have them sit into this position and become, locked in. No. What are the things I need to get done? I know I need to improve with my board. So here's a task: board recruitment, do the research, send out the packets, do the follow-up. I know I need to get this website done. It's a project. Have them do the website. I know I need to do social media. So you can take advantage of programs like this just by doing projects, moving your organization forward. All of the things you can't do because you don't have the time, you don't have the energy, or you don't have the money. Create these projects, have these people come in. They're getting paid by the Workforce Investment Board. They don't care. They have the skill set to do it. So that's how I try to approach preventing burnout, creating these projects and having people pay the other people to do the work. This one is called, I think it's called, TSE, hire a worker and get 5 months wages at no cost. So this one, they're on the job training, right? So what happens is the organization pays their wages, taxes, and workers' comp for 5 months. You teach them the job skills and they're going to pay for it. And if you keep them on, then they're going to pay you 60% of the wages. So maybe you could provide part-time, but not full-time. Well, this is a way to make it happen, right? They're going to pay 60%. You're going to pay 40%. You have a full-time person. As nonprofits, we just don't understand that we qualify for this government funding. And so I just wanted to make you aware of it. You may be in Colorado, you may be in Arizona, but this is a federal funded practice. So go to your workforce development and figure out who the person is, because once you get these people on, it's going to increase your capacity. Any questions about this part? Okay. I have sat on plenty webinars trying to get this type of information for my nonprofits. So I'm so excited to be able to share that with you. Again, the Durfee Foundation, they offer sabbaticals. Make sure you go onto their website, see if you qualify. For those of you who are like, I can't make it another year, this may help to increase your ability to push through, right? So yeah, where are we? 10:22. All right, so now I want to just stop and see if there are any specific questions from any of you. I know I've been talking quite a bit. This is the only thing I don't like about the framework of like 90 minutes. There's so much information, right? I want to get it to you, make sure you have it. If you want a copy of this video or any video, like if you weren't able to attend a topic, they have been recorded. You would just email Mason@latinocoalition.org, and she will give you access to the previous videos or any videos. Okay, so any specific questions for me at this time? This is your time. Anybody? Thank you, Laura. I appreciate you. And you know what? I always come to this moment and I say to myself, are my people saying, great, Amber, That's one more thing you want me to do. Are you guys saying that? I hope not. I hope it's like, if I do this, then it's going to help alleviate these other things, right? That's my goal. My goal is, okay, yes, it may require some time investment to go to the Workforce Investment Board, but on the flip side, you may get 3 people who are funded by the government, right? That's how I hope. That's how I see it. It's going to take some energy, some input, some, but the payoff is going to be greater. That's what I hope. Any questions? Anything? All right. Well, thank you guys for joining me. I hope I see you next Thursday. If you want a copy of the video, reach out to Mason, and I will see you guys next week. Yes, Alicia. Yes, yes, yes.
Hi, Amber. Sorry, I do have one question. And
Okay.
I work for a nonprofit in Hood River and Wasco County in Oregon. And we have about 100 employees. We've grown a ton in the
Wow.
past 10 years. And right now within my department, we are getting ready to restructure to give people the opportunity, like you were talking about, title changes, but also with added responsibility. And I do feel like so many people who have worked at our nonprofit have been there for a very long time and they've developed relationships with other staff. And I think I'm kind of anticipating a few different people applying for the same supervisor position and trying to navigate those relationships as friends who people who are maybe friends out of work now might be supervising their friend. And so I just wanted to ask if you had any advice on how to navigate restructuring, or when people move into more of a leadership position and have to supervise their friends or the people that they were working at the same level with previously.
Yeah, so I think it's important, first of all, to make it clear that the organization is growing, and it's important that you have people in positions that fit certain skill sets, right? And then, as it relates to the people who are now supervising their friends, what's going to be really important is that you get them the professional development that they need to supervise. Because if they don't have the skill set, to supervise people, they're going to make decisions based on those relationships. So, Fred Pryor, I'm trying to think of some. Here's the other thing I would do. I would bring in a person, since it's such exponential growth, I would bring in a person to have them do the professional development and say, okay, these are some of the things that you would do if you are, supervising a friend. Create specific goals. And so they're going to give them what they need in order to be successful as a supervisor. You don't want to just throw them in there and say, you figure it out. No, no, no. You give them the skills. So if it's like 5 people, you say, okay, we're going to bring in this trainer and we're going to have this trainer teach them how to supervise different types of situations. If it's friends, if it's somebody who used to be in this department and now, there's here or here, give them the skill set that they need to be successful. Don't just let them go in. Some people will do it and some people will fail. You're going to set them up powerfully for success by giving them the training that they need when they go into it. Do you have the budget for that?
Yeah, we do. And I do feel like it was really encouraging hearing you talk today because I feel like we're doing a lot of things well. And I'm like, oh, this is exciting. Okay. Um, but no, we do have the budget for that. And I feel like our executive director, I'm at the management level. And so I do feel like our executive director, one of our main strategic goals is retention. And we are doing so much. Like, we already have merit increases in place and COLA increases. We did a bilingual differential recently. So
Hey, what's the name of your
yeah.
organization? This is sexy.
Yeah, so it feels good. But no, this was really helpful and thank you. I think the professional development, just not throwing people to the wolves, is lack of a better term, right? Is just
Yeah,
so important. So I really appreciate that advice. Thank
absolutely.
you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us today. Anyone else? This is your time.
Hi, hi, Amber. This is Heather.
Hi, Heather.
I have a quick question for you. I have been bragging nonstop about this. And so I have other nonprofits in Colorado Springs, other EDs that would like to jump in on these. How do I share that information with them?
I think you need to reach out to Richard. Are they a
Okay.
part of the Latino Coalition?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. So our partnership, my partnership is with Richard from the Latino Coalition. This is a service that they're providing their members. So
okay.
it doesn't matter for me. I'm on Zoom, so
Yeah.
but he is paying me.
Yeah. No, that's
So
good. I didn't know where to send them because we found out through Transforming Safety. So I wasn't really sure like who to connect people to get to you. So
right.
okay.
Alternatively, I have resources on my website. I do conduct outside webinars, so you can send them to www.amberwin.net.
Okay. Fabulous. Thank you.
But I know that Richard is really committed to, this community and growing and supporting. So I would reach out to him first to say, hey, how do we open this up to other organizations?
Okay. Thank you.
And thank you for bragging about me. I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Anybody else? All right. Well, you guys have a wonderful day.